PR Connections Radio presents.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to Evelyn's Roundtable. This podcast highlights a host of relevant topics. Our conversations share voices of women of color, Black women veterans and veterans, allies, candidates, and elected officials, entrepreneurs, teachers, students, and others. We also explore important issues and challenges such as grassroots leadership, job training, homelessness, and mental health advocacy, accountability, male inclusion, and civics. Our mission statement is to empower all women. Do you hear me? All women to hold hands as we rise.
Oh, hello.
Hi. Well, again, thank you for being on here. This is really a nice, and I don't know. I just have a lot of respect for you, and I'm grateful for all the things that you have done. And I can call you Representative Shelley Berkley. I can do that also too, because you have did a lot of things for Nevada. And again, just thank you for being on here. And
well, Evelyn, I can't thank you enough for having me on. And believe me when I tell you, this is a mutual admiration. So it's a pleasure and an honor for me to join you today.
Thank you. So can you please tell our audience a little bit about yourself?
Yes, of course. I'm the granddaughter of immigrants that came to this country in order to escape the Holocaust. If it wasn't for the United States, my grandparents would have both sides would have been exterminated during World War II by the Nazis. But my family, both sides were able to immigrate to the United States. When they got here, they couldn't speak English. They had no money. They had limited skills. But what they did have, Evelyn, is a dream. And that dream is that their children and their children's children, which I am, would have a better life here in America than they had where they came from. So I often think of myself as my grandparents' American dream. But I think in their wildest dreams, they never could have imagined the life that I'm living now. So my belief in public service, and you know, I've been in public service in many offices over the years, is my way of giving something back to this country for not only taking my family in and giving us a chance to survive, but giving us a chance to thrive as well. So public service to me is, I would say, almost a calling. I love helping people. I've been very blessed. And I think it's important when you are that you reach down and help others on the way up. So that's why I do what I do. And that's why I'm running for mayor of Las Vegas, because I want to be able to work with my fellow citizens and give everybody a brighter future.
And wow. And I know we have a topic, but you're going to have me say this. In democracy, it is on the ballot, everybody.
I agree.
It really is. We have to get it together here. We have to get it together for those that are underserved, underemployed, for everyone to be equal, for everyone to have a chance, for everyone to be able to be a citizen, to be, yes. To pay taxes, to have things, to go out to eat. Not saying that going out to eat is something special, but I'm saying when you want to, you can go eat, right? You can enjoy your family.
It is special, and we often take things for granted. But before we moved to Las Vegas, and my family, we've got 4 generations of my family here now. We've lived here since 1963. But before that, I grew up with my grandmothers in New York. And I used to hear what their life was. They couldn't hold certain jobs. They weren't able to vote. they couldn't go to restaurants or anything else because they would have been thrown out of those restaurants. And so that's why they came to the United States of America. I think it's important, especially if you're an elected official, to make sure that cannot happen here in America. And democracy is not easy. You have to work at it. And I think that's why so many Americans right now, shocking to me, but it's so much easier. You have a dictator that tells you what to do. But that's not what democracy is. Democracy is hard work. It's voting and participating and talking about the issues without fear that you're going to be harmed by the government. And so I believe, and I think you and I have spoken about this, democracy depends on a well-educated electorate making informed decisions. And that's why education is so important to me, because without an education, you can't fully appreciate your history. And if you don't know your history, you're going to repeat the same mistakes. So that's why I think it's very important for us to not only learn our history, but improve upon it.
And education again, and the topic is about women getting into trades, and that is also, to me, part of this, the education part of letting these women know this is education. So yes, education is letting them know there's jobs in the trades, and there's benefits, and if you're in a domestic situation, or if there's where you and your husband are together and you both have to work, that getting into trades is a way for women to make a very good because you do get your degree too when you get into the apprenticeships, because CSN is connected to them now. And I have a AA in pipe fitting because I went through the trades for 5 years. But education in daycare is another challenge.
Huge. I mean, if you don't have a safe place for your children to be, how could you go to work? And if you have a place that you're worried about, that's what you're thinking about all day long. So how do you do your job if you're worried about your children in childcare? So that is a very, very important issue. Now, it's not something that the mayor of Las Vegas has much control over, but it's something that when I was in Congress, I worked on. And it didn't matter where you are. You could be a working woman, you could be in the trade, you could be a lawyer, a doctor. It doesn't matter. When I was at Nellis Air Force Base visiting with the women that were enlisted and stationed at Nellis, what was their number one issue? Childcare. I mean, we all face it. We all face it. I was very lucky. Both sets, since I grew up in Las Vegas, I had both sets of grandparents here when my kids were born. So they had the added benefit of not only growing up knowing their grandparents, but my mother and my mother-in-law were tremendously helpful to me while I was starting my career, because I knew I could rely on them to help take care of the kids. That not everybody has that luxury. It's just that my family, lived here, so we were able to work together. But I can guarantee I couldn't have run for office. It would have been very difficult with two little ones at home.
Yes. And I man, that's been something that I've been working on and talking with Urban League about. But not only that, though, to have more facilities that have like 24-hour daycare places, because we only have two here, and they're both on opposite ends of town. But I'm like, those women that are in the trades, they have to be to work at like 5:30 in the morning. It's not that 8 to 5 or 9 to 6, or it's not those type of hours. And I talked with them, and they are actually seeking out those that want to have licenses to be able to do this. But it's hard. Again, I think getting the information out, again, that you can have a license, right? You can get a license to do this if this is what you're interested in. So I guess my whole thing is about getting the information out.
I agree with you. And Evelyn, the way I see this, the next 10 years in Southern Nevada, including the city of Las Vegas, are going to be explosive. There are going to be tons of good paying jobs for skilled and well-trained people in the trades. So the opportunities for women that want to go into the trades, make a good salary, have good benefits, and you're helping to build a city. So I think that is pretty spectacular. But if someone is even remotely thinking about it, they ought to look into it very seriously, because jobs are going to be plentiful over the next decade.
Yes, and that's interesting that you say that, because that's what I've been saying too. I mean, because even though I'm not physically out there anymore, I still got my ears to the ground and got a lot of and are tied to like 7 unions too, so I get a chance to hear what's going on and everything. But yes, you're so right. And I said, matter of fact, I just said that a couple of days. I said we got at least a decade of work that we have that's going to be here. I mean, wow, even on the strip, off the strip, down over, I mean, everywhere, state line. I mean, the bright line job, that's going to be humongous right there. Huge. Thing. And in mining.
Huge. I know. It's very exciting.
Mining jobs too.
I agree. Yes, yes, yes. I agree with all of that. I think our golden years for Southern Nevada may be ahead of us. And, when we first moved to town, I remember 1963, there were 80,000 people in the Las Vegas Valley. Now there's 2.5 million in the same geographic area. And it's just exploding. Why? Because there are jobs available. How did my family end up in Las Vegas? My father was a waiter when I was growing up, couldn't make a living in New York. And so we drove across country, ended up in Las Vegas. Why? Because he got a job as a waiter with benefits and a decent salary. And I always say, on a waiter's salary, my dad was able to put a roof over our head, food on the table, clothes on our back, and 2 daughters through college and me through law school. Not bad on a waiter's salary. And why is that? Strong union. And union making sure that its members were well compensated for the work that they did.
And a wage for a fair day's job, right?
Exactly right.
I mean, that's really what it comes down to. And again, and like you said too, the pride that goes with that you can see the buildings that you help build and the people coming. And then too, right? So there's a lot of buildings on the strip that I can go down there and say, oh my gosh, look at this. Oh, wow. And people were like, oh, I went to the Wynn. And I said, yeah, you're getting AC because of me. I help with
right.
You're breathing air, AC, so it's kind of cool to be able, as a female, to say that I'm part of that.
Yes, I agree. And how remarkable driving down the strip and being able to say to your daughter or your granddaughter, Grandma helped build that. That's pretty cool. That's pretty cool.
Yes. And it's something with them now too. It's something with them because they're kind of like, oh gosh, because now they know, right? So it's not as exciting. And I tell them, I said, you know what? You're going to remember this. And later on, when you're kids and you're going to be like, wow, this is where I was at with your grandma. This is where right now you're kind of like, okay, whatever. She's talking again, right?
Yeah. No, I think it's great. And you know what I notice also, Evelyn? There are the building trade. At one time, this is a man's world. I mean, without a question of a doubt. And I see that changing dramatically because they need the workforce. I mean, there's a lot of building out there and the men can't do it all themselves. So I think women are being welcomed into the building trades in a way that they were never welcomed before. And it's not unique to the building trades. When I went to law school, there were 280 people in my freshman class, my fellow students, 20 of us were women. 20. Now, if you go to any law school or medical school, a majority of the students are women. So the change in my lifetime has been dramatic. And I suspect that is the same and will be the same for the building trades.
Oh yes, yes, I'm noticing it, and that's was one of the reasons why I started Nevada Women in Trades, is to increase our presence. And back in the all the wars, women, stepped up and helped. That's why I wrote the Riveter, right?
That's exactly right. I
Oh,
know it's look it and it depends. My mother, who was a stay-at-home mom, could have run a multi-billion-dollar corporation if her circumstances were different. But she grew up in an era where girls she never finished high school. She had to go to work to support her family and her widowed mother. And so she just didn't have the advantages that I had, thanks to her. And I always say, in my house, when I was growing up, it didn't matter if I was pretty or popular. Of course, I was both, Evelyn, but it didn't matter. It mattered that I got good grades in school so I could make something of myself.
yes.
I thought my mother was the meanest human being on the planet, but actually she made me the woman I am today. You didn't go out to play unless you did your homework.
Right.
Things like that, responsibility, making your bed, things that I just thought were such a pain in the neck.
Yes.
But
Yes. I say that now to my grandbabies too. Like, oh my gosh, I got to pick up everything. I got to do this. I'm like, yes, you got to go to school. You got to get good grades. You're going to get a little part-time job. I'm not saying, hopefully you'll go to college, because even to me, I think college can show things too on things that you have to do. You have to get up in the morning. You got to do your classes. You got to do your homework. It's just regiment is what I think. I'm not saying just because I'm saying get into the trades, that's all you need to do in some college. But I'm like, hey, if that's what you want to do some college too. I mean, but
I agree.
Yeah, it's because you got to be well-rounded.
Exactly.
That's kind of how I feel about it.
Look, we're very lucky here. We've got the community colleges are very affordable and very welcoming, particularly to single women that are working and have children. And UNLV, I'm the first person in my family to go to college. If it wasn't for, I thought UNLV might as well have been Harvard. I mean, it opened up a whole new world for me and my family, and it changed our lives. So I recommend it. And again, college is not for everybody.
No, it's
And
not.
so if you are inclined to, want a good paying job that puts you solidly in the middle class, and we need to work on our middle class, because I think that's the very essence of democracy. It's important that you do those things and appreciate my building trades. Make a good hourly wage, have good benefits, tough work hours, I'll admit that, but still, it's a good profession and something that you can be very proud of.
Yes, it's really it just in being I am an Army veteran, and when I got into the trades, it was almost like I just went from one to the other, because the building trade showed me independence too. You get your working orders, you build something, you go back to the foreman and say, hey, come back over here, check on it. I built the military, the same thing, right? You get your orders, you go do your orders, you come back to your drill sergeant and hey, I did it, and there we go, and so it was kind of nice, I had that same regiment for me. But then when I got my first check that was $1,500, I was sold.
Look back it's like more money than God has. I mean, my first job out of law school was I was working for the state commerce department. My salary was $16,700 a year. I thought I hit the jackpot. It was so much money back then. I mean, it just amazing. But to give you a profession that gives you a good income that you could take care of your family, that's all we're talking about. We all want the same thing.
Yes.
We want to be able to get a good paying job, be able to take care of our family, make sure our kids get a good education, and we have access to affordable health care. Everything else is gravy.
Yes, yes, yes. Which brings me to another topic I want to hit on is veteran housing for women, veteran women. That's something I would like to work on, and I am working on, and all that. And I know everything takes time in that, but that's really something that I'm spearheading right now with Sergeant Dixie and Donna Lee, which are both Vietnam veterans. And but I think, because it's to me, if I'm having issues with sexual trauma, I really don't want to go live with a bunch of men, regardless.
Right.
I just, it'll be really hard for me. And I'm not saying that you can't do it and things, because everybody does what they need to do when they need to do it. Right.
Right.
But I'm just saying, why should we have to do that when we should be able to have a different facility for those? I mean, some can do it. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying the ones that can't and don't want to. And again, it's about choices again, right?
I think it is first of all, the idea that we have a single veteran living on the streets is so offensive to me. Here, these people have made tremendous sacrifices on behalf of the rest of us. And it indicates to me, because we do a large percentage of our homeless population are veterans. And I know there's been an uptick in women veterans as well, but we don't do a very good job transitioning our servicemen and women when they come back to civilian life. And it doesn't seem like it would be challenging, but it is. It is. You're dealing with a lot of issues. You're back home. Here, you could have been a leader of men and women in combat, and you come back home and your wife wants you to throw out the garbage, or your husband is telling you you'll clean up the bathroom. And all of a sudden, it's like, what planet am I on? How did this happen? 6 months ago, I was in Afghanistan, fighting for my country. Now I'm throwing out the garbage. It is doesn't seem like it would be. It's a tough transition.
Yes. And that's interesting, because that is the way you're like, wow, you really talked to me like that. You really just did that to me. You really just treated me like I was on the bottom of your shoe. And I'm just like, wow, this is interesting, and I am now the commander of American Legion Post 51. I made commander of that post, and first woman and first Black woman to make commander of that post. And that's kind of a different feeling for me too, and
yes,
you go to these meetings and they're like, yeah, Evelyn's the commander of American. And I'm like, yeah, I am.
I am. It is funny, and women are very much like that. I remember when I first got elected to Congress and I walked into my new office and picking out the drapes and the carpet and stealing furniture from other members of Congress and just trying to get your office together. And I remember walking into the office for the first time and looking around and thinking, how did I fool all those people back home that they voted for me thinking I could do this job? I can't do this job. And then, once you get into it and you start working, then you realize, I can do this. But initially, it's a bit of a challenge for any of us doing anything.
Oh my gosh, what you just said there, gosh, can I tape record that right there? Just that segment right there. Because that is the whole part of encouragement for women that I would love to use when I go talk to these women when I'm doing resource fairs. What you just said right there, oh my gosh, is like How was
And
that?
it's true. It's true. Happens to be true. And look, and I'll give an example in my own life. After, I was in Congress for many terms, and then I ran for the United States Senate. I lost by a point, I think a percentage point. And then when you're done, you're home. And again, a transition period, and thinking, what am I going to do with the rest of my life? And so, and I don't think I was ever at a lower period. People look at me and none of us, it's 100% rosy. And I'll be the first one to admit I've been very blessed and I have a wonderful life, but not every minute of every day of every year has been wonderful. And it did take me about 10 months to get over the fact that I had lost it mentally, physically, emotionally. There wasn't much left of me. But then you pick yourself up and you wipe yourself off and you get on with life. And that's when I got a call from Touro University, which is, of course, the largest medical school in Nevada, asking if I wanted to be the CEO and senior provost of Touro University. And I told them immediately, I have no academic medical background. I don't know if I could do this job. I've never been trained for it. And the very reason I ended up taking it was because I didn't know whether I could do it. And I thought at my stage in life, let me try something so outside of my wheelhouse that I didn't know if I would last a day, a week, a year. And I ended up, working at Touro for 9.5 years.
Yes.
Very successful years. But again, and women are very, very good at worrying ourselves to death that we can't do something. But I decided I'm going to do this and see how it worked. And it ended up working just great for me, just great for Touro. But you got to take the shot. And I am sure that there are women that would like to be in the trades that are just worried. Can I do this? Is it, am I qualified for it?
Yes.
But the answer is do it. I mean, you're never going to know unless you try.
Yes. I tell them, jump off the cliff and you're going to you're going to hit the bumps on either side of the wall, but you're going to land on your feet. And then when you land on your feet, you got this look on your face, right? Like, wow, I really just did that.
Yeah.
I can do this. And then
Yeah.
you start doing other things, like you said, outside the box, right?
Right.
You are, and even me for next session, I'm going to resubmit my bill. That was to, and we haven't really talked a lot about it because we've been talking about so many other things, but I'm going to redo the bill and resubmit it to help women to get in the trades. And I thought about it and I said, well, why not? Why would I not try this again?
That's
what do
right.
I got? What's going to happen, Evelyn?
Exactly.
What really, like you said, I'll probably go through my moments for a little while. But again, I'm going to have to get back up, pull my bootstraps up.
That's it. Wipe yourself off and keep moving forward. We have no choice. I mean, this is what we do, particularly as women. And usually, for women that are single with children and working, they've got a lot of responsibility on their plate and in their heads. And so they, it's not easy, but no one ever told any of us that life was easy. Nope. It could be easier, but you do have to take the shot.
You do. Yeah, it's not a bowl of cherries, y'all. Things happen.
Not always.
So can you, with the last few words, could you really, like you've been doing, and again, this has been such a pleasure right here. Wow, it really has been. Can you just tell us a little bit about what you're doing nowadays and all of that?
Well, I decided, I was in office for 30 years. And then I was, for 9.5 years, the head of Touro University. And I decided it was time to leave Touro. Loved every minute of it, but the school was doing great. And I didn't think there was anything else I could do for the school. So then I started thinking, well, what are you going to do with the rest of your life? What do you love the most? I love the most public service. I have no interest in going back to DC. I have no interest in going back up to Carson City. But for me to be able to do public service, help my fellow man and my fellow citizens, and go to sleep in my own bed at night, that is very appealing to me. So I decided to run for mayor because Carolyn Goodman and the Goodmans, after 25 years, are termed out of the mayor's position. And I thought that with my experience and my background and my knowledge on issues from gaming to healthcare to education to energy, all of this is in my background. If not from public service, then working, because I've been a working woman all my life. And so I decided that I would run for mayor. Once I made the decision, I haven't looked back. It feels good to me. And the reaction of the community has been very positive. So we're going to deal with issues of public safety, homelessness, which is a huge issue right now, affordable housing, economic growth and development. And then while education and healthcare are not part of the mayor's job description, I do have a bully pulpit, and I want to be able to use that bully pulpit to discuss things with the community and with the public about issues that are so fundamentally important to us as a society and as individuals. And so I'm excited about the prospect. I ask everybody for their vote and their support. And I would appreciate everybody on this Zoom. You got to vote this election. It is that important. This is a game-changing election. And I am very excited about our future.
I can't even disagree with the voting part. I think everyone needs to vote, and it's important that you vote. It really is. It's very important. And so thank you.
Even though, I'll say this, even though there are states and there are people in this country that want to restrict our voting rights and make it more difficult to vote, all that in the state of Nevada, we have just the opposite. We have mail-in ballots, early voting, election day voting. There's no excuse for a single person that is registered to vote not to show up in the 2 weeks before the election to cast their ballot. It's our right as American citizens. It's also, Evelyn, as you and I know so well, it's our responsibility as American citizens.
Yes, yes. And I always do early voting because then it doesn't stress me out.
I love it.
Yeah, I just I do early voting. No, get it. I get everybody to, yes, because it's really important. It's very important. And I'm teaching my grandbabies the same thing, because even when we're out here and talking about voting, and everybody asks them how old they are. And yes, they're young, but I'm like, no, they're going to register to vote. They're knowing the importance of voting. Well, again, thank you so much. And is there anything else you can think of that you would like to say? Or is there?
No, I thank you for having me on your podcast, and I appreciate the opportunity.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. So as always, I end with our mission statement is to empower women and all women to hold hands as we rise. Thank you.
PR Connections Radio thanks you for watching this podcast. Check out more episodes of this show and our others at prconnectionsradio.com.